Welcome to the Spurs 9501 podcast. From Kane to the Lane, the final say on all things Tottenham.
Everybody, welcome back to the Spurs 9501 podcast. This is Ray in London, and we've got our expert, Serie A expert, Jack Farr, back with us. Hello, Jack. How you doing?
Not so bad, Ray. How you doing?
Not too bad. Did you enjoy the Euros? Happy that Italy won?
Look, I think just very quickly, I think that the best team won the tournament, and if you'd have told any England fan that they'd be in the final, not necessarily that they'd win, but they were in the final, you'd rip their arm off. So I think a good tournament all round.
Yeah. No, okay, thank you. Yeah, I agree with that. I think the best team probably did win in the end.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. So we've got Jack here, guys, to talk about Pierluigi Gollini, who's the new keeper that we've signed from Atalanta. He's going to be signed on a season-long loan with an option to buy. He's going to be the number 2 to Hugo Lloris. Jack, as a Serie A expert, has got a lot of intel on Pierluigi, and he's going to share that with you today. So, Jack, just give us an introduction to Pierluigi, where he started and, how he's doing. And then we'll go into some more detailed questions about him.
Yeah, of course. So first of all, I think, again, and I feel like every single time we speak, usually my kind of initial comments are like, okay, everybody hold your horses. This is not Donnarumma, okay? This is not going to come in and be your goalkeeper for 15 years and potentially, once he finishes his career, be considered the greatest of all time. That's how highly I rate Donnarumma. Coming in as a 16-year-old, he's already won a Euros. Who knows what that man can achieve. Gollini is not that. Okay, he's not that. He's an interesting character. He's a good shot stopper, generally speaking. The one kind of issue I think for him is he's not so brilliant coming for the ball in terms of crosses and whatnot. But again, he has been, a part of that fantastic Atalanta setup with Gasperini, right? So it's one of these ones where I think the deal is perfect for Spurs. What I mean by that is he can come in, and if he trains well, and if everything looks good, then maybe in 12 months' time, the Spurs hierarchy can go, maybe this is our guy. Because I would imagine the option fee to buy is not going to be too much money. So I'd say that's a good thing. And then obviously if it just doesn't work out and he comes in, he plays a couple cup games, you can just let him go back from his loan. So
it's a risk-free sort of type of deal, really. Not much to lose and a lot to gain, hopefully. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if we compare it to something that's happening right now, £50 million on somebody like Ben White, there's a huge risk factor there, right? Yeah. Whereas this kind of loan with an option to buy, it gives you good flexibility, and there's low damages if it doesn't work out well, especially with Lloris still there.
Sure. So give us, it's interesting you say that he's a good shot stopper and not so great at crosses, which describes Hugo Lloris to me. So I'm just saying, are we buying another Hugo Lloris?
I was going to say, it sounds kind of familiar, right?
Exactly.
I don't think so. I think that, and I guess we'll get into some of these, some of the info here shortly. But the thing with Gollini is he is a totally different character. You're getting a completely different beast in terms of, getting a completely different beast in terms of a personality and a player type, and it's also something that he can definitely improve upon in his game going forward. But yes, unfortunately, there are some comparisons there with Hugo Lloris. I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing with the Spurs fan base, but
yeah. So stylistically, how is he different in his keeping with Hugo? What's the main differences we can expect between Gollini and Hugo?
That's a very, very good question. Differences in style.
For example, is he good with his feet? Because Hugo's notoriously not good with his feet. Is he good with his feet? Can he pass it out?
He's gotten better with his feet, and I think that the statistics will back that up as well. The reason why he's had to become better with that with his feet is because Atalanta as a football club have become a better team. Yeah. Significantly more in terms of a possession based style, playing out from the back. So he's had to get better. But again, this is not Edison we're talking about here. You know, this is still kind of a work in progress. But I'd say probably right now, I'd say chances maybe he's better with his feet than Hugo Lloris. But there are some big similarities. He's very brave. I'd give him that. He's very brave. A lot of his saves, you know, diving at people's feet, that kind of thing. And I think again that marries quite well with his character and the type of person that you're going to be getting.
Sure. So let's go through some of his. What do you think are his main strengths as a keeper? You mentioned he's very brave. You know, he's a good shot stopper. Any other things that we should be looking out for?
I mean, those I think are the main kind of take home ones to go with. And I think the thing, you know, usually and I did just a little bit more extra research because obviously Atalanta goalkeepers are not strictly my speciality. Yeah. But you know, you look at interviews and stuff. He's very well respected. He's very well liked. I think he's a big one as well. And there's a certain level of kind of character and charisma that comes with somebody like Gollini. And like I said to you, it's going to be kind of a real sea change to Hugo Lloris, who, you know, I don't think I'm too crazy in saying is kind of a really very good example of a professional goalkeeper. You know, you never hear about Hugo Lloris doing anything wrong.
Except the drink driving a few years ago.
Except the drink driving, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I had to add that in. Sorry, yeah.
But
yeah,
but you know,
I get what you're saying though. He's a good person and he sets an example. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Whereas Gollini, I think there's going to be a little bit, you know, there's a little bit more youth, a little bit more, you know, little bit more of kind of a craziness, cheekiness, you know, a bit more of a character, basically.
Yeah. One thing I was very impressed with on his video is that he spoke really good English, which is good. A lot of Italians don't speak English that well, do they?
Well, obviously there's a very good reason to that. Were we going to kind of list the facts, or do you want me to just kind of go into them now?
Why don't we just give us a bit of introduction to his background and where he started, etc.
So originally he was in Fiorentina as a youth player and got scouted quite heavily by Manchester United and was brought in, I want to say, as a 16-year-old, I think 15, 16-year-old to Manchester United. So immediately as a teenager being brought from Italy to England to Manchester, that shows the character of the kid. A lot of times you see it more often than not with these European countries, and sometimes it's, I think, a smart move for people's careers, but sometimes I think that people play it safe a little bit too often. We see far too many times do we see a German player go to a Bayern or a Dortmund setup because they want to develop, or Kylian Mbappe goes from Monaco to PSG or something like this, where they kind of play it safe. And for their development, it's probably the safe bet. But sometimes you do want to kind of put yourself out of your comfort zone a little bit. And I would say, I think it was 2 years at the Manchester United youth setup. He really put himself out of his comfort zone there. And obviously spent a little bit of time as well. I think it was about, I want to double check here, 20 appearances at Aston Villa. Yeah, 20 appearances at Aston Villa as well. Where again, he played pretty well. I think a lot of the articles I saw was, Spurs have signed a guy who struggled at Aston Villa. And I kind of think to myself, struggle, it's a very emotive word. I'm not sure that that's strictly true, but obviously he spent some time in England already. So this is hardly going to be a shock to the system. As you said, his English is already very good. And I'll be honest with you, Ray, I think there's a certain level of like, you know what? I don't think I did what I wanted to do in England. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to kind of try and prove myself here. And I'm going to maybe try and replace Hugo Lloris. I think I've got that option. Okay,
excellent. So when he went did he leave United and then go to Villa, or was it on loan or something like that?
So he went to Verona. He went to Verona. I think I've got it here for 2 seasons. Yeah. And again, the one thing I'm not a huge fan of, looking at kind of his history, is he's not a 30-plus game appearance maker every single season. There's lots of very kind of spotty. So you've got, from 2014-15, obviously he was a very young man at this point. He was 19, but you got 3 appearances for Verona, 26 appearances for Verona, 20 appearances for Villa, 4 for Atalanta, 7 for Atalanta, 20 for Atalanta, 33, and then 25. So, if you're somebody...
Why is it so undulating, the thing? Why is that, do you think?
In Italy, there is, unless you're a top keeper, there usually can be, and I know this, trust me, at Roma, there's usually a bigger rotation of goalkeepers. There'll usually be 2, maybe even 3 at times, goalkeepers, and there's a certain level of, whoever's got the best form plays. Unless you are a Donnarumma, Buffon, a Szczesny, these types of players, there can be some rotation at that position. But for me, a little bit of a red flag is obviously what you want from a goalkeeper really is 30 plus, 30 plus, 30 plus, 30 plus. And the problem now is we're not talking about him in 2014 as a 19-year-old anymore. He'll be, come this next season, he'll be 26 years old, I believe. You're really going to need to be consistently playing football. And don't get me wrong, 20 appearances, 25 appearances, 2 of the last 3 years, it's not that bad, but realistically, it's about half a season. And you'd want more games played at that point. And, playing behind Lloris, is he going to get as much game time there? I'm not so sure.
Yeah. So was he the goalkeeper for Atalanta when they had that great run in the Champions League?
Yes. Yeah. So he's been really, really good. The 19-20 season, so not this past season, but the season before, is where he played most of his games, the 33 games across the board. But again, he, just like a lot of players, we've seen the links with Cuti Romero as well. And I did tweet this because I do think it's a very good point. A lot of players have left Atalanta and been good, very good, you'd argue, some of them, but you do benefit from playing in that Atalanta system, which I think across the board, making the most of what they have at Atalanta, I'd say is probably the best football we've seen in Italy, over the past few years from Gasperini's side.
Yeah, so why is he leaving Atlanta? They're in the Champions League, I believe. He's going to probably be the number 1 there. Is it purely a financial reason he's leaving?
Well, I would imagine.
Sorry, what wages would he be on, do you think, at Atlanta, roughly? That type of club?
I can't imagine it's any more than. I mean, don't quote me on this, but I can't imagine it's any more than €4 million a season, 5 million. Maybe something around that mark. I mean, obviously you consider Donnarumma before he left Milan was on about, I think he wanted about 10 or 12 million euros a season. So yeah, I imagine he'd have been on 4 or 5, and obviously that will. But then again, it's a loan. Yes. I'm not sure. I'm not sure actually.
If it's a loan, the club that's taking him pays some of his wages, don't they? Or they pay all the wages? I don't know. I'm not sure about that.
They can. I think it depends. So if let's say you're a Barcelona and you want to get rid of a Coutinho on loan, I'm sure Barcelona's, pay a lot of those wages. But for a player like Gollini, I'm not so sure. It wouldn't shock me if Spurs were paying all the wages there. I really don't know.
Yeah, no, fine.
But I think the main thing that I get, and I don't have any inside information or reports that I'm quoting on this. I think there's a certain level of I've not there's kind of an unfinished chapter in England, and I think that he wants to go and kind of try and prove himself in the Premier League, which kudos to him, seriously.
Yeah, no, that's really good actually. So I was going to ask a question, but it'll come back to me about that one. So. Tell us some interesting facts about our friend Pierluigi Gollini. Have you got some interesting facts you can?
Yes. So the best one, and my favorite one anyway, because I actually watched it before coming on. In 2018, he released like kind of a musically a well-produced, and in terms of the music video, a well-produced a rap video. And I believe my Italian is not fantastic, but it's the translation is like a rapper with gloves, basically. Okay. And it's not bad. I'm not a huge fan of it, but again, you see, I think a lot of football players do kind of enjoy dabbling in that side of things a little bit more. And I think sports people in general, there is kind of a very strange link with music. I think of. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say we'll put the link in the description of the video.
100%.
So they can have a look. I mean, recommended by Jack Farr, but absolutely, no, it's great. It's really interesting. I wouldn't be the last thing I expect Italian footballers to do, the rapping.
But also, like Hugo Lloris isn't releasing a rap single anytime soon, right? And I think there's a certain that'll be fantastic in the dressing room. People are going to be ribbing him. There's going to be some fantastic. I love stuff like that because. Yeah. it takes a lot of courage to put yourself out there and produce something. That takes real courage. I think to criticize or make fun of something is very, very easy. Anybody can do that. Yeah. But actually putting something out there creatively to the world, like credit where credit's due to Gollini.
Yeah, it's great. So he's put out a rap video. Anything else you can tell about him that would be interesting?
So obviously we've touched on a couple of them, but he does have a Manchester United and Aston Villa history. So that I think probably has covered about 3 years of his life. So hence why his English is so good. And again, a huge motivator, I would imagine, by him returning. And I think that this is not just going to be a loan, because he'll probably be a little bit worried at Atalanta signing a goalkeeper as a replacement, and then he's gone. So yeah. I think he will be coming to North London with the aims of, right, yeah, Hugo Lloris, you're out the door, mate, and I'm coming in here. So I think that'll be his goal. Another good one as well, and again, if you consider that he's kind of come up in around the similar time as somebody like Donnarumma as well, and obviously the likes of Buffon, Sirigu, these kinds of guys historically, from under 21. Sorry, from under 18 to under 19 to under 20 to under 21 to the senior team. I believe it was 2019. He made his international debut under Roberto Mancini. Keep in mind, these are the European champions now.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. And I imagine it was a game where Donnarumma was being rested or something, but still, credit where credit is due. The man has represented Italy at the top level, and being able to do that from a young age going forward, with the trips to England and back, and being at I want to say it's 4 or 5 different clubs now. So he's got including his youth career, Fiorentina, Manchester United, Hellas Verona,
Villa,
Aston Villa, and Atalanta. He's got 5 clubs under his belt. So I think very, very impressive. He's managed to still impress the national team setup and be a player there. And then the other one, which I just thought was kind of interesting and definitely a positive. He faced 6 penalty kicks last year. He saved 2 of them. And that's not too bad, right?
No, good, actually, yeah.
If 1 in 3 penalties, and the reason why I really wanted to bring that up, Ray, was this is the Premier League and this is VAR. And we know that, especially if you consider a team like Manchester United, right? You've got Rashford, Sancho, and blah, blah, all running at you. Bruno Fernandes, they're all going to get touched and go down. There's going to be a lot of penalties. If he can keep up like 1 in 3 penalties being saved, he's doing something right.
So a question I had for you, that's excellent stuff, Jack. Really, really insightful. Thank you.
Yeah.
One of the questions I had for you is he going to be able to really put pressure? Because Hugo Lloris hasn't had any pressure while he's been in goal. He's always automatically number 1. Is this guy going to be really able to push him and put him under pressure? If he doesn't perform, then this guy can come in?
I hope so. The skill level, I think, is the one that hits you in the face most, because we know, Hugo Lloris, it's the autumn of his career. You'd argue maybe it's even the winter of his career, right? So his skill level will be going down and down and, down going forward. And Gollini, you would hope, especially around the age of 25, 26, it's just going to keep going up. Also, with the ideas, as I've mentioned to you, the rap song and the kind of character he is and the guy that he is, you'd hope that the dressing room warms to him and it kind of becomes a clear favourite. And the last thing that you would want from a coaching staff, Nuno in there as well, the last thing you want, again, keep bringing up Manchester United, is a Dean Henderson, David De Gea type scenario. You want a clear starter. And I think that if Gollini can put enough pressure on, maybe not the first game of the season or even the first half of the season, but maybe after the January transfer window, who knows? Maybe Gollini will get a run of 4 or 5 games, play well, and then we'll start to hear stuff about Hugo Lloris moving on at the end of the year, and then maybe Gollini will be your guy. And I think that's his intent. I think that if you wanted a safe stopgap goalkeeper, you'd have signed a British backup. And I believe I saw this report. You'll have to correct me on this. Nuno told Joe Hart that his services are kind of no longer required. Is that right?
I'm not sure. I haven't seen that. But if you're telling me that, yeah,
I believe so. I believe I saw that on Twitter. Again, don't. He's
only got 1 year left on his contract as well, anyway.
Right. Don't quote me on that. But Joe Hart is like a decent. You would imagine as a backup, still an appropriate backup. So. The fact that it's kind of like, right, we're kind of distancing ourselves from you, Joe Hart. We're bringing this guy in from Italy on loan with an option to buy. I think that shows where the club's mindset is at.
And is this mainly a Paratici-driven thing? Is it Paratici being the main guy in this?
Yeah, I mean, what I would say to you, generally speaking, and this is no disrespect to Nuno, but I don't think Nuno is going to have a huge say in transfers. If we learn anything at Wolves and the amount of Portuguese players they were signing, I know Nuno is Portuguese himself, but we know the relationship that Wolves had with Jorge Mendes. And I think that, nearly every single player that was brought in was a Jorge Mendes guy. And just as a quick aside, we talk about third-party ownership being banned in football. Agents are basically football clubs now. It's kind of that way. There is still kind of third-party ownership happening in football. You have to make sure the agents get their money before anything happens. But Christian Romero, I look at somebody like him. He was linked heavily to Juventus when Paratici was there. Paratici's now gone to Spurs, and he's been heavily linked with Spurs. Yeah. So, to me, plays for the same club. It wouldn't surprise me if Gollini was potentially, maybe an option as a backup at Juve, or God forbid, even a starter. So yeah, I'd say that's definitely a Paratici-driven deal.
Yeah. Okay, and I think we'll do a separate video on Cuti Romero if he signs. That'd be great to do a video with you on that.
Yeah, he's terrific. I do, like I said, I'm always a little bit hesitant because it's the team at Atalanta that makes them so strong. But I look at Gianluca Mancini, who went from Atalanta to Roma. He's a great player too. And so, it'd be kind of in a similar mold as that.
Excellent. And one last question I have, and all Spurs fans are going to have this, is does he have a clanger in him?
A clanger? What do you mean? Oh, is it a mistake?
Lloris has got a clanger in him, hasn't he? So does he have a clanger in him?
Unfortunately, I feel like one goes hand in hand with the other when you're not as confident as coming for the ball in the box and kind of really dominating your area. And I do think that is an area for him which he does need to work on. So to me, can I see him, coming for a cross and maybe not getting the full punch or not getting the catch or missing it altogether? Sure. But again, this is not a guy who is going to be like, oh, I've never been here before and I don't know the language or anything. As we've discussed, he's come back, to me, I think, to prove a point. He speaks the language, and I think that this is his moment, really, to when he gets given the opportunity to really step up and be heard. And I'm sure the Spurs coaches will work with him on that.
Jack, that's been an excellent insight into Pierluigi Gollini. We really appreciate that. To all our subscribers and viewers, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. If you've got any more questions for Jack, we're hopefully going to have him in regularly on our channel. He's going to be one of our stalwarts of our channel with all these excellent analysis and insights. So please put them in the comment section. So, Jack, before we go, any final thoughts from you?
Again, I think if this guy has a loan and plays a couple of cup games, maybe one or two Premier League appearances, if Lloris has an injury of some description, I think if he goes back to Atalanta, no harm, no foul. I think this guy could be your new number one from 2022 onwards. But I would also say don't pin your hopes on it just yet. Another guy, and I've said this to James, obviously an Arsenal fan. The fact clubs aren't going for Keylor Navas at PSG blows my mind. It
could be a wager thing, maybe a wager thing.
Yeah, quite possibly. But I would say Fabio Paratici, if you're watching, make sure you go look at the contract situation of Keylor Navas. But no, apart from that, myself and my buddy James are on Box to Box Football, trying to get to 500 subscribers over there. And obviously, we're any support is wanted. And obviously, I think you can see in my name here at Red Brood on Twitter if you've got any questions or anything of that nature.
No, absolutely. We'll put the link to Box to Box. Guys, if you can go and subscribe to James and Jack's channel, that'd be great. Get them up to 500 subscribers. They produce really, really good content. It'd be really good to get them up to those subscribers. And as I said, we're going to have Jack regularly on our show. And if James is a good boy, even though he's an Arsenal fan, we might get him on occasionally as well.
Ooh.
Everybody take care. This is Ray from London saying goodbye, and we'll see you on the next podcast. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the Spurs 9501 podcast. Stay in touch, continue the debate, and let us know what you want to discuss by finding us on YouTube. Tune in after the next match day for more insight. Thanks for listening.